Hi, everybody, and welcome to our third webinar in our Demco series. We're so excited today because we get to talk about nonfiction again, and we're going to cover some ways to make nonfiction a star in your school. So it's going to be a really fun conversation loaded with tons of ideas today. My name is Shannon McClintock Miller. I am a librarian in Van Meter, Iowa. I work with kids from preschool to 12th grade and just all kinds of things that we do in our school. I'm excited to share, just like we did in our last couple webinars, and hopefully give you some ideas from our kids and our teachers too at our school. You can find me on Twitter or X, and also I just had to add my Blue Sky little social thing because that's something that I think everybody's getting on this week. So I wanted to add that too.
My name is Brianna Kua, and I am a marketing consultant and the owner of Engage Media Solutions. But yeah, I'm so excited for our webinar today.
Me too. It's going to be great fun.
Yes, so our webinar will be around 30 minutes, and we will have plenty of time at the end for questions. Next Wednesday, you will be receiving the slides and a recording of the webinar, so look out for that.
So let's get started. Today, our webinar is going to focus on how to make nonfiction a star in our libraries, classrooms, and throughout the school community. First, I'm just going to quickly review why nonfiction matters and the impact that it makes on our students. And in our last webinar, we went over these slides, but I think as anything, like when I work with my teachers and I work as a librarian, even in the collection development of my school and with my kids, I think about these things. Encourage curiosity. We know that nonfiction books often tackle topics that naturally pique children's curiosity, allowing them to explore and learn about the world around them. Develops critical thinking skill. And so I think this is something that, especially with all the great books that are coming out, when we had our webinar last time, I had just picked up One Turtle's Last Straw for our fourth graders, and the feedback I got from not only the teacher but the kids were just so excited and really got them to think and to analyze things, and also just to look at something, you know, with a different perspective too on what they read, maybe like in an article or doing some research, maybe on a database. Also, nonfiction builds vocabulary and knowledge base. It has real world connections. I love this. There's been so many great titles, not just Taylor and Simone, but just so many things that our kids, you know, those high interest real world connections that they are hearing, and even current events. And it seems like there are more and more great books all the time. Nonfiction supports research and inquiry. We know that that serves as kind of a springboard or a starting point for further research and investigation. And one thing I shared last time was that these little articles from PebbleGo had just come out, the How It Is Made. And these books are great to pair up with that. And so just thinking about, you know, getting them very, very interested in that nonfiction. We're now into the holidays, and so we're just putting books that are really promoting those diverse perspectives. It's a great time of year to do that. And so thinking about how we can get more in front of our kids. And then nonfiction, one of my favorite things about it is it connects them to their passions. And that's something that I think, especially in this presentation today, we're going to share just lots of great ideas. I also put the link to the recording and the slides, and so we're going to share this at the end, and you'll be able to get to that if you haven't watched the second one that we had, Igniting a Passion for Nonfiction in Our Readers. So today we're going to cover 5 ways to make nonfiction a star in your library and classroom. The first one, showcase and celebrate high interest nonfiction. And I do anything I can to make it, you know, something in our library that is just really fun to spotlight current nonfiction that we have. And also, even if it's not like new releases that we have, like how can we think about displaying it in different ways. And one thing that I am super passionate about right now are all the narrative nonfiction type books. And so we've done a lot with, putting them together on the shelf, making displays. I love these little baskets that we have, and we have these kind of dispersed like throughout our library, but super easy even to switch them out. It doesn't always have to be like the seek and find or seasonal. You can switch those up too, just to spotlight some current nonfiction titles with diverse topics that are interesting to the kids. Also include books on science, history, biography, current events, and hobbies that align with your student interest. And again, one thing that we're seeing so many really great, again, narrative nonfiction books that are true stories about people that, maybe they've never heard how the scissors were created, or the story about Rosa Parks, and so many things that we can bring to our kids that really like pique their interest. And oftentimes I find that once they read a book, then they want to, learn and research even more. So I love that. One thing too that my kids love is anything around STEAM. And if it's in their classroom, if it's in the library, like asking for books all the time on things to do. They want easy things to do, and these Pebble books from Capstone are great because they can do this themselves, maybe make like a trap or a marble run, so many things that they can do from these books at school and at home. And so a few years ago, we made a special just makerspace area in our library on one of our end caps. But I also love sharing this Padlet with my teachers because it is great for them to be able to kind of look at some of those themes that their kids are interested in, and then they can pull books that either we have in our library, maybe they're online, and also books that we can even get to. So lots of nonfiction in here and lots of fiction too, of course, but you can find that Padlet linked in that slide. Another thing is to select visually engaging books, and there are so many great ones that either have amazing illustrations, just captivating photographs. I love it because series are something that really get the kids excited. So just lots of, things that when we're looking, and it's so fun to be able to look through some of the catalogs and online to see the different books that are coming out and just how great they are. I got these were new ones that I actually got today in my box from Follett, and the gifts from the garbage truck is just so great. I love it. The kids are going to love that. And then also the scary stories. This is one from Flutterby, Spine Chilling Creepy Places. My kids are going to love that. And so just really, fun to think about that. And then on the other side, again, pulling books that we have for holidays. This is a series from Capstone. I love this holiday set because it has just amazing photographs and really does a great job of telling them about the different holidays. Another thing is to incorporate different formats that include graphic novels, picture books, reference books in print and ebook format, even audios, if you can find them. And I make sure to, have plenty of nonfiction in our library, but also how are we pulling out our nonfiction that we might have in our ebooks and getting that in front of our kids too. And so one thing that I do each month is I have this virtual book hub that I pulled together, and there are some fiction books in there too, but mostly like books on topics that are around like a certain time of year or holiday, and we do that each month. So then they click on it. I shared this last time in the webinar before, but I wanted to share it again because if you're like me, I love hearing things more than once so I can remember these ideas. And this one is one that has really been one that has picked up the kids and the teachers, and I was hoping when we started this that they would use and really love. And we have, this is just made in a Google slide, and we have all of our new books that we catalog each year. And it's great because when they go to this, we can highlight, all the amazing nonfiction books that make up our collection in this little Google Slides. And when the kids and the teachers go there, they can see all the books that we've added. They also know, though, that if they come to the library or even look like on our Destiny, that they're able then to find those on the shelf or online. And so I think this is a great thing to do because it highlights some of those nonfiction books that maybe they wouldn't see if they came to the library, because they might not be displayed and maybe they're already, on the shelf or even checked out. So it's a wonderful way to be able to celebrate those new titles too. Number 2 is to showcase nonfiction in exciting and fun ways. And we love making, fun displays that get them so excited about the new books that we have. And again, oftentimes we don't have a super big library. And so we use end caps, we use some of our pop-up libraries in the hallway, like anything we can to highlight some of these great books. And this is just one end cap. And I love like the little poster holders, and I use these a lot. This is some books that we just got from World Book, and on the bottom there, this is a really fun series, Two Truths and a Myth. This is a capstone series, and the kids love them because they are, really exciting, like new nonfiction titles. And then again, I wanted to put in there that spine-chilling creepy places. Can't wait to show the kids that one. I know that's going to be a hit. Also create displays around these high interest nonfiction themes or current events. And this is an area that's just a pop-up library, like in our hallway, kind of down by our elementary. And every month, or even, it might be even a shorter amount of time or a longer, we have sets of books that we bring together that tie into topics that are going on. We had one for voting in elections. We celebrated Hispanic Heritage Month. Right now, we have one around holidays that are going on and coming up. And so we're working on that this week, actually, to get that out to the kids. Another thing is to feature author spotlights and promote their amazing nonfiction. And I think so many times that we, talk about the authors of all of our fiction books, and oftentimes the people who are writing these great nonfiction books, maybe they're not, celebrated and they're not highlighted in the library, in the classroom. And so I try to do that and look for things that, authors, especially people like Melissa Stewart, that are writing, over and over these amazing books, that we want to make sure that our kids know about them too and know that author. And so, for example, like Melissa, she has an amazing site and she has all of her books there. And so bringing them together, if it's something that's virtual and that you're celebrating, or even printing this off and making a little poster in your library, I think it's just so fun to be able to promote the authors of nonfiction books too. It's also really a great thing, and this is our little pop-up library, to rotate those and make it like an area that is fresh and exciting for your kids. And if we had this up, the same thing all year long, after a while our kids would lose interest. And so we really try to keep like rotating books, to update our displays, to make it exciting for them to come. And another place that I do that in is our book hub. And even though our book hub is mainly fiction and mainly picture books for our kids and our teachers to read, I also put really great nonfiction, usually like brand new books that we've gotten, books that tie into, again, like, things throughout the year. Maybe it's a featured nonfiction author or publisher, but paying attention. And I think it's great because then our teachers can bring these books, and a nonfiction book can be a great read aloud too. And so it helps our teachers kind of know that it's okay to read, you know, that new narrative nonfiction that just hit our library, or something maybe that the kids are interested in. And so I think that encourages them as well. Number 3 is to connect nonfiction to the curriculum, fostering inquiry, and so much more. And one of my favorite things to do as a librarian is to collaborate with our teachers. And I love matching up nonfiction to their lessons and projects, and not just nonfiction, but fiction also. And it's been really fun because, for example, well, I'm going to go back here for a second and kind of tell you about what we do. But this is a document that I use for collaboration, and our teachers at the beginning of the year, they put in what they're working on each month and throughout the year. And it doesn't have to be a whole bunch of text. It could be, I always use, my cousin Krista teaches TK, and I always use hers as an example, like even just saying weather, fall, apples, you know, very simply, I can tell so much of how I can help her just with those little kind of key things that she has put in there. And one thing that came from this kind of a springboard was really kind of diving in as a librarian and supporting our teachers, even in like their reading, their social studies and science curriculums, and embedding not only things that we might be doing, you know, if we're bringing technology or whatever it might be, but also really great books. And so if they're reading, you know, maybe they're studying, for example, on lesson 2, they're studying family, and that's a nonfiction book. And so I can go and I can find, you know, even more nonfiction and bring it to them too. And so using something like that, but really thinking like thoughtfully how we're embedding ourselves and also our library collection into the classroom. And our teachers too, we have really great like classroom libraries, but this year we have been adding even more that is fiction and nonfiction, high interest to our classroom library sets. And so today I was outside of the 3rd grade getting ready to work with them in Destiny, and I just got this series, and it is another fun one, Paranormal Life Cycles. It actually kind of scared me, but I knew that our kids would love it. And I brought this one down then to our 5th and 6th grade area and took a picture of what was happening to like in our 3rd grade. But you know, when you go into a classroom, not only looking at maybe what they have in their classroom libraries and having conversations with the kids like, but also seeing how you can tie that in to what they're learning and the topics that our kids really want to focus on. We also can use nonfiction to support project-based learning. And to go back to the turtle story again, I shared this last time too, it was so much fun for the teacher to ask me like, you know, we want to study turtles. And so I brought together, you know, some great nonfiction, Pebble Go, and also some videos and stuff to support what they were doing. And then we connected with the Sea Turtle Rescue Center in North Carolina, and we can use videos and virtual field trips to really complement those nonfiction topics, just like the sea turtle that our kids in 4th grade connected to too. And one thing too that in this section is, don't forget that kids love reading nonfiction for reading groups and clubs. And there's no reason why we can't do this. And in our pop-up libraries that we have throughout our elementary, each grade level has their pop-up library for their book club. And you'll notice that on the top and the bottom, these book clubs too, they include really great high interest nonfiction. These are series from Capstone, and these are so much fun for the kids to read together, questioning, like inquiry, things that they want to learn and that they're really interested in, makes it fun for reading groups too. Number 4 is to showcase nonfiction creatively through technology and multimedia. One of my favorite things to do is to tie in how our kids can use what we have in our library using either their iPads or Chromebooks, and also that they have access to these things at home too. That's really important. And so I talked about our book hub a little bit ago, and this is our November one. And so, again, just thinking about how we can incorporate nonfiction books, audiobooks, and even podcasts with our nonfiction themes. And one thing that I love is when I'm making these like book hubs, I'm using our capstone ebooks, and we have ebooks in our Destiny, we have them through the state in our Mac and Via, and so we have a lot of access to them. But my favorite place to go is to our capstone. And now when you log into PebbleGo, at the top you have PebbleGo, PebbleGo Next, and then you have a place for your ebooks. And this is so great because there's a category for nonfiction. And so when my kids go there, they can see all these different topics. Of course, the unexplained one is probably one of their favorites, sports. So many things that they just like to explore, but also when we're using it for research and conversations, it's great for them to get to that. Podcasts, and this is great because most podcasts that maybe they're listening to, especially I think as kids get a little older, might be, based on nonfiction topics. Of course, there's some that are fictional too and storytelling, but this is great because our kids love hearing like true stories, even our little ones. And I think that giving them access to some of these is a great way that we know, whatever grade level they might be. And it shows on here, there's one for elementary, middle, and high school. I put together these choice boards, but then when you also go to GZM, you can see all of their shows that they have, their podcasts, and even look for more nonfiction. At the bottom, you'll see there's a category that says nonfiction talk. And so that is a great place to go to even find more podcasts that our kids want to listen to. Another thing is to bring high interest databases, things like PebbleGo, to your library classrooms and of course to your kids at home. And we have PebbleGo and PebbleGo Next, but the great thing about having this is I can bring it together too to make choice boards. We can share like one link with our kids if we want to in Google Classroom, but then pair up that great nonfiction with nonfiction ebooks and even things that are fictional too. And I love, finding ways to highlight our nonfiction. And this is just one example when new articles come out, even making a choice board. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel if you have PebbleGo and PebbleGo Next. You can just click on this slide, grab it, put your own links in there and share it with your kids. But think about how excited they would get just to explore these topics and these new articles by themselves. Another thing that kids love when they're talking about nonfiction and you are in your class having these conversations is to play digital trivia games, things like Kahoot or Gimkit. We have quizzes now, so many options, and also breakout EDU games. I love this because it has so many nonfiction texts and topics that we can pull from too. Use nonfiction as a springboard for technology. And I shared this example last time, but it's one of my favorites. And when we do chicks in first grade, it's a great example to think about how we can take a topic, we can think about how maybe we use an article just simply about like chickens, for example, tie in some nonfiction books, but then support it with something like Merge, where they can really see then. And this is great because when they're hatching their chicks, they can even see inside with a Merge cube. And then using things like, this is one called animated drawings, using things like Canva, using PebbleGo Create, maybe it's Book Creator, Storyboard that, like so many cool digital tools that can bring nonfiction topics to life with technology. And our kids love it. They love learning about things like the presidents, for example, or famous Americans, but they love it when we can then bring things to life. And one of my favorite examples is when our kids learned about plants and vegetables and fruits, all kinds of things. And we had this book and choice board, but then they created their own little stick together posters. And this is something that is sold through Demco, the Pixel Art class pack, and the Pixel Art site is free for them to create too. So a really good thing to bring to your kids and bring that to life in great ways. And number 5 is to celebrate nonfiction through events and programs. And one thing that I love to think about is it's a great way, to bring these conversations and these topics like to our families too. And so our kids, I would say that probably most of the time, if kids can check out 2 books, one of them is nonfiction. And I have a lot of conversations with families, on how to pick great nonfiction, or how can they bring more of it, into their home. And they love the conversations that start from it. And so thinking when you have like an author event, or maybe you have a family night, like have a nonfiction night, have something that is focused around not just literacy, but when our preschools, for example, when they had theirs, it was focused around STEM and even careers, because we had some guests that came and talked about their career with the kids and the families, and then how we can support that with nonfiction. I love this little series. I just got this, and this is another one from Flutterbee, and it's all about careers and great for even our preschoolers, but a nice one too to bring to such a night that you might have. I use, in Destiny, I use a tool called Engage for our reading, kind of for kids to keep track and kind of their book clubs online and keep track of their reading. But another thing is reading challenges. And so you can host a nonfiction reading challenge. It doesn't have to be something just around fiction. And so this week, as we're working in Engage, we actually have a nonfiction holiday reading challenge going on. And really simply from your Destiny, you can put books in there, kids can read them, they can keep track of them, and even have conversations. We all see these read alike lists. I love these. And one thing that I was thinking of as I was working on this presentation is creating some that were for popular nonfiction topics. And so I was looking around the other day and printed off some ideas, like you could have one, books like, I don't know, maybe it's like the sea turtle or something. And so I think that that is a really fun idea and something that I want to do as we go into a new year. And this one, even though these are mainly adult ones, I think this is a great one too, like just creating a list that said nonfiction that reads like fiction. Kids would love that too. It's also great to find ways to bring nonfiction topics and conversations to your students. And I like this because it kind of shows what we do in our book clubs that we have within our classrooms. But kids love having these conversations, and there's lots of fun ways to bring those conversations and different things to our kids in our classroom and our library. We can celebrate themes like Black History Month, Women Histories Month, our code, holidays, and so much more throughout the year. And our Demco calendars that you can get every month. You can even go back. And I think that January is already on there too. But if you click on this slide, you can get to the December one. And these are loaded with great ideas that tie into topics and great for nonfiction. And so you could find things to pair up with this that our kids would really love to learn and read. And then lastly, find new ways to bring nonfiction to your community. This year, adding our book vending machines. One thing after that first round of books that we had comments from our kids is they wanted nonfiction in our vending machine, which made my heart so happy. And so when we placed our order, we made sure to put nonfiction, and we've been adding even more. And it's been such a hit with our kids. And so I think finding new ways just to celebrate and bringing nonfiction not only to our kids in their classroom and in the library, but even in the community, and really showing our parents. These are 2 of our parents on our VMEPC, our parent committee, just showing our parents too how important it is to bring those to our home. So as you can see, there are so many ways to make nonfiction a star in your library and classroom. And I hope that you guys have fun bringing some of these ideas and nonfiction to your readers and engaging creative and special ways too. So I'm going to share a couple resources, and then we'll take some time for questions. And these resources are really great for just igniting a passion for nonfiction. And I have to share Melissa's site again. She is amazing in everything that she puts on there. And if you haven't read 5 Kinds of Nonfiction, I highly recommend it. This is just a great guide for us as librarians and teachers, and also something even to gives a lot of things to talk to our kids about. And so great for all readers. And I love this. I found this recently actually on the Capstone site when I was placing an order. And even under types of nonfiction, they even focus on here on those 5 types that Melissa is talking about. And so we can find this and use like what she's saying when we're looking for books, if it's, you know, on Capstone or Follett, or if we're at a bookstore, and really looking at that too. And in Tidal Wave, I wanted to point out that in Tidal Wave, like on the front page, there's always banners that point to different things, and there's always really great like nonfiction type of topics too. And so right now on Follett Tidal Wave, there's one called Narrative Nonfiction. And when you go in there, I love it because you can see like if that like meets kind of your requirements. And I have it set up that I have to have like 2 or more positive reviews, a certain, you know, year that it has to be published by. But then for those of you who might not know, in Tidal Wave, you can read all of those full text reviews. And so, for example, on The Wolf Effect, that's a new book, and I just found this the other day, and you can read all of those reviews. And so when you're looking for nonfiction and really trying to make your collection even better and just something that's so interesting to our kids, check out this too, because it's a very helpful tool to be able to build your collection around nonfiction. And then Kidlit TV, they have great things around nonfiction and fiction, of course. But this is something that they continue to add to, and these are just nonfiction books that every classroom library needs. So nice for us as librarians and teachers to be able to look at some of those books. I also wanted to put in my blog, because I write about these topics and more, and a little link to my newsletter. And so you can sign up. This is something actually that Brianna, who is my daughter too, and she does an amazing job putting this together every week, from just library tips and trends and news, all kinds of things that we might be sharing. So you guys can sign up for that too. So now is time for questions, and I think that Brianna's probably been watching to see if there's any questions.
We don't have any yet, but if you have one, please put it in the question box.
Well, if you have a question after this, feel free to email me, reach out. You can find me on social. I'm always happy to help. And everything that we talked about too today will be linked in the slides. And so you'll be able to find those things, and don't reinvent the wheel. Use some of the ideas and just copy them and make them for your library and classroom too.
We do have a question from Amanda. She says, do you have any special tips for high school?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's interesting with our high school, because a lot of the things that we used to do when we had like a larger, I think, collection of nonfiction books. I've been at Van Meter for 18 years, and I used to love finding like, you know, like Time would come out with a book about, you know, with photographs, or there might be a new book about a topic that a kid would be, you know, interested in or talking about in the library. So a lot of the things that I do for our elementary that I've shown works for our high school kids and our middle school too. I love putting like new titles like that even in newsletter or in our Google Classroom to be able to share, especially with our older kids, giving little shout outs to that. And then with our older kids too, especially with nonfiction books, is I really want to get like books that are of interest to our kids. And so I might show them places that they can look for it, or we'll search for a topic together and find something that they want. But I think anything that we do too for our elementary, you know, a lot of things would work for our high school kids too. Another thing is we have a lot of different databases for our high school, and I love showing them, you know, the databases and how they might be researching or reading. But I also love still bringing print into those projects and lessons and into their classroom too, because I think especially for our middle and high school, they don't use as much as they used to. And it used to be something that even, you know, like if you're, you know, our kids in college, like they just don't use as many books as we used to because of all the online resources. And so just even if it's not a giant stack of books or a cart of books, but making sure that we're trying to still get like books into their hands and showing them, giving them, you know, a little bit of diverse like topics and things that they can look through too. That's a great question though.
Amanda said too that her high schoolers prefer print to ebooks.
I find, and isn't that interesting? My high schoolers definitely do when it comes to fiction, because they don't like to read online as much unless they might have a Kindle or something. But I think that is so true, because it really takes away something when our kids have to read like a book online that maybe has great photos or is interactive or something. Another thing that's kind of funny is our kids love some books too, like they love the I Spy books. So we have those in our high school. They love some of the books that they loved when they were in elementary. So finding some of those things too, like books about, I don't know, we got one recently about magic and like illusion. So it's fun to kind of find those topics that might be of interest, like spark something in our kids.
Um, Stephanie is asking if you have any suggestions for how to find good podcasts for elementary school.
Yeah, so when I showed the podcast during the webinar, just click on those slides, and we're going to share in a minute. We're going to share the QR code that you can get to and the link. But one thing that you can do is you can go to that website, and they have so many great podcasts for elementary. And then in those choice boards, when you click on the one with the choice boards on the page, it will go to the blog post, and you can just copy those and use those for your students. They're all really good for elementary, and the elementary, middle, and high school, they're all separate. So when you share it, it's not sharing like the middle and high school ones too. It's just sharing the elementary, but you can read about them. I met the people from that podcast company a few years ago at a conference, and they started the company because they were making podcasts like for, I think like a Christian podcast show or something that was for families. And then they realized that they should just make it for education, for all topics, all kids, like that anybody could listen to. And they've done a really good job because our kids love them. Some of them are really short, some of them are a little bit longer. Um, they just do a great job, and that's a great place to kind of start. And you'll find like that most of them on the choice board are from them. So, and they're all free. They're all free on there too.
Kim asked, how do you get the backgrounds for the choice boards like the snow falling on the winter board?
Okay, so the great thing is now in Google Slides, you can like search for images just in Google. And if you search for like, sometimes I'll put in like snow, animated snow, or, you know, whatever I want to move. Maybe it's an earth and I want it to move. Just search for that when you're searching for an image. So search for like, you know, snow falling animated, or moving globe or whatever it might be. And so it's really easy. I love it because now we don't have to go someplace else. We can just look for those right inside when we're making a slide. It's fun. Once I find it, then I remember where it is, and then I don't have to search for it again, and you can just copy it and pull it over too.
Christina asked, can you share a little more about Follett Engage?
Yes, so Engage is so cool. We've had it for probably 3 years at Van Meter. What it is it's like it's just an add-on to your Destiny, very reasonable add-on. And when they go into their Destiny, they'll see a tab at the top called Book Club. And so when they sign in, and we've been doing this, we've been getting all of our kids on it again this year. And today I worked with our third graders because this is the first year that they're actually using it. And when they first log in, it brings up an interest survey. And so they click on the books that they're interested in. And it's so nice because then when they go to their homepage, they can see like what books that maybe fit their interest. It tells them like what books from their search that also would be some that maybe they would like. And then they can set up challenges for themselves, a reading challenge, so they can keep track of the minutes, they can write book reviews, they can also set up a challenge. And I love this part because it doesn't have to be us as the librarian or the teacher. Kids can set up a challenge with even like a classmate or a small group of friends. We had one little girl today that started one for her whole class. And then in that challenge, they can keep track every day of what they're reading. They get badges for it. But us as teachers and librarians, we can also set up programs, and that's what I did with the nonfiction holiday books. And then you can share, you can have the kids then just add that to their account. And so it is really cool. And it's such a great way to, I think, to highlight your library and also like Destiny, getting your kids in Destiny so they can use that even more and connect to like their interests in what they want to read. So highly recommend it. And it's they keep like making it better and adding more things, and it's just a really great tool. And I love that it's like a very reasonable add-on to within our Destiny.
And then Jennifer asks to tell a little bit more about the pixel art website.
So Pixel Art is a website that Stick Together created. And so now it's like Demco has Stick Together, and you go to it, and the Pixel Art site is totally free where kids can, they can make, I think they have 300 squares on their little pixel, like it's kind of a, it can either be like horizontal or vertical where they're creating, and they can create then in that, they can download it either as a blank one that they can fill out with the stickers that you can get, or use like your leftover stickers from your Stick Together posters, or you can even print it in color. And I have posted a lot about this on my blog because we've done a lot of different projects. But the nice thing too is that you share like a link with your kids and they're creating, and all the creations go to your like pixel art dashboard. And then once the kids, like say you have 25 kids in your class, and once all of their pixel arts are created, you can even select to like put it into a collage. You can make different worksheets from it. You can print them out in color, or even, you know, just blank so they can fill it in. But it is really super fun. And our kids, it's one of the things too, they have like this end of the day choice board that I made, the teachers asked me to, and that's one of the things on there because they think it's so much fun to create in there. So really, really cool. Fun, easy, but really, you know, you can find so many ways to use it too. Pretty powerful on how you can use it.
That was our last question.
Those were great questions.
They were.
I love it. It makes me think too, and I like even took some notes of things I was thinking about when we talked about it. So thank you everybody. And like I said, just please feel free to reach out and I'm always happy to help. And so Bree, now that I said it, maybe we're not sharing the slides today. We're sharing the slides on Wednesday. Am I right?
I did share the link in the chat though, so they can
Okay.
grab it there.
Awesome. Okay. Well, you guys, this is our last webinar of the year of 2024, but we are going to kick them off again starting in the spring of 2025 for our webinar series. We're going to have 3 more in this school year, so we're very excited about that. And we just look forward to seeing you there and can't wait to share the new topics that we're going to be talking about too. Oh, there it is. I thought we had a slide. So you guys can either get it there from the bit.ly or you can scan it if you want to too to get the slides from today. I'll leave this up for a second and give you time to do that. And just remember that everything is linked. If you have questions, please reach out. I'm happy to help. And this has been so much fun. It's gotten me thinking too, and I have new projects now on my plates from all these ideas. And so we're really grateful for you joining us for our webinar series so far. And we hope that you just have a great holiday, enjoy your family and friends in whatever you do, and have a great week finding ways to ignite a passion for nonfiction within your readers too.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Bree.